Controversy is brewing as Thomas smashes records, some in the sport questioning whether she has an unfair advantage. Following NCAA guidelines after a year of hormone replacement therapy, Thomas was granted the chance to swim on the women's team. After 2.5 years of such therapy, last month, she recorded the fastest times in college swimming in the 200 and 500-yard freestyle and won the 1650 freestyle, beating her nearest competitor by 38 seconds. The editor-in-chief of Swimming World magazine, John Lone, writing an op-ed last month, saying Thomas's competition in championships could create, quote, an indisputably unfair setting.
A few moments later.
Turn now to another major university reaching a deal with the Trump administration, this time concerning transgender athletes.
This morning, the University of Pennsylvania reversing course, saying it will now ban transgender athletes and strip trans swimmer Lia Thomas of her swimming titles.
So Lia Thomas has been stripped of her NCAA Women's Championship because she's really a man. Let's talk about it. All right, so first, thank you to the people who've sent me this video and asked me to do a follow-up on the transgender debate. Now, it's wild because on YouTube, I have probably the most popular video covering this particular topic of biological men competing against biological women in sports. Now, let's just start at the beginning. We have men's sports and women's sports, and we know that generally men have a competitive advantage in athletic competition over women. It's something we've known for millions of years if you were just paying attention. And another fact of reality is that we know if you just have men compete with women in sports, women wouldn't get any scholarships, they wouldn't get any money, because they would not be able to compete against the men in sports. And that difference between men and women isn't just a little difference, it is a huge difference. As an example, let's use the 100-meter dash. I've used this example all the time. So let's start with the numbers. This is World Athletics. They are the governing body for track and field when it comes to the Olympics and all the world championships. And they also keep all of the records. Now, for the world record in the 100-meter dash, let's go to 100-meter world records. And as you can see, it's a time of 10.49, and that's Florence Griffith Joyner. She's better known as Flo Jo. And she set that in 1988. So that record has been there for all of these years. Now, when you compare that to the men's 100-meter world record, which is 9.58, it's almost 1 second more than Flo Jo's record that's been there since the 80s. But the question would be, where would Flo Jo place if she was competing against the men? The fastest woman ever, her time. How would that place in a competition against the men? Okay, so we're at World Athletics and we're looking at the men's 100-meter times all time. So this is every man who's ever won the 100-meter race in an international competition. This is where their record's going to be. And we're taking Flo Jo's 10.49 seconds in the 100 meters, which is the fastest time ever run by any woman in the past 30 years. And we're going to compare it to the men's and see where she's going to place. Now, do you think she's going to place in the top 10, the top 100, or the top 1,000? Now, let me know in the comment section, or just let me know right now, scream it into the screen. She's going to be in the top 100. She's going to be in the top 10. So now, 10.49 seconds. Let's see what's going on the list. Now, this list has how many people on every page? It goes down to 100 people on the first page. Now, on the first page, the 10.49 doesn't get you to the top 100. That's 9.94. So let's see where Flo Jo would have ended up. So we had to jump from page 1 to page 81. And when you go down to look at the time of 10.49, this person from Bangkok, Thailand, has that record for 10.49. And he ranks among all men 8,000th place, 8,015th place. So the fastest woman alive wouldn't be in the top 10, wouldn't be in the top 100. She would be 8,000th. And that's the fastest woman ever to run the 100-meter race compared to the men. And you could do this for a whole bunch of different competitions. Now, if a woman being 8,000 compared to the men. If that's not shocking enough, here is a high school boys race. And this high school boys race, if Flo Jo were to race against these high schoolers, these are not in college, they're not elite Olympic athletes, these are high school boys, she wouldn't have even made the podium. Look at these times. Number 1 is sub 10, 9.98. And in 4th place, 10.47. He beats Flo Jo. These 4 boys are running faster than the fastest woman to ever run, and they're in high school. Now, I do want to be very clear with this. I would not be able to beat Flo Jo in a race. I'm a man, but I cannot run for crap. Flo Jo would easily beat me. It would be a laugh. But against high school boys who run track, she would be destroyed. And that's the reality of the biological difference between men and women. We have the numbers, we have the evidence, it's not even close. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least show you the other side's argument, what these transgender activists are arguing and why they believe it's more than okay to allow biological men with this type of advantage to compete against biological women.
On the face of it, it seems simple, as you say. You know, if somebody identifies as a woman, if they're transgender, they can compete against women who were born biologically, and then if not, then not. But then there are many who would argue, who are not transphobes. There are many who born biologically women who will say, but you have an unnatural advantage over me, and that makes the sport unfair. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, there's lots of ways you can respond to that. So the first is the very language of you were born and I'm not biological somehow, like I don't think I'm a cyborg. So like this idea that like, oh, you're not a biological woman. Well, I am a woman, that's a fact. I am female, so all my identity records, my racing license, my medical records all say female, right? And I'm pretty sure I'm made of biological stuff, so I'm a biological female as well. So this question of, do trans women have an advantage over cis women? We don't know. In fact, there's basically no published research on this question. However, there's good reason to think that there isn't, but I think it's irrelevant because we allow all kinds of competitive advantages within women's sport. So one example I love to talk about is the 2016 Rio Olympic women's high jump final. First place was over 6'3", 10th place was 5'5". So a 10.5-inch height difference between first and 10th at the Olympics in high jump.
Right.
And we call that fair.
Okay.
So the range of body types within the female category is way, way bigger than anything that could be attributed to trans women. So if there's an advantage, and I'm not saying that there is, for trans women in women's sport, it's not an unfair advantage.
Now, you know me. When someone cites something, I like to look it up. Let's look at the 2016 Rio Olympics high jump. Now, I expected that all the tall women would be at the top and all the short women would be at the bottom. That's why she was pointing it out. If you're taller, you have an unfair advantage and you're unlikely to be able to win. Now, Veronica Ivy was correct. The first place winner in high jump was 6'3", and the 10th place woman was 5'5". But when you look at the competition as a whole, you quickly see that Veronica Ivy is being misleading and deceptive. See, the second place or silver medalist was just 5'11". The third place finisher, she was 6'4". The fourth place finisher was 5'9", and the fifth place finisher was 6'2". So it seems like even though there are some people who are taller than others, height doesn't really determine how you're going to do in this event. And it seems like Veronica Ivy is intentionally misleading people about the high jump by literally cherry picking the stats. Why didn't she say the silver medalist was 5'11" and the third place or the bronze finisher was 6'4"? That destroys her argument. Now, what you'll hear a lot from the people who are promoting that trans women or biological men should compete with women is that, hey, if you take hormone therapy for a couple of years, that will essentially eliminate all the advantages that you have as a biological man, and that should allow you to compete against women, and the competition will be fair. But there's no study that shows that type of reduction. Matter of fact, all the studies show that trans women or biological men continue to retain a lot of those biological advantages because the hormone therapy doesn't remove the muscle mass you've accumulated. It doesn't take away your bone density. All those advantages are still there.
Dr. Carol Hooven from Harvard University, she is very much supportive of the transgender population across the board. She did a meta-analysis of like 50 different studies looking at hormone suppression therapy and testosterone blockers. And the conclusion of looking at over 50 studies was that after testosterone blockers, there's only about a 5 to 10% drop in muscle mass, and that there's no evidence whatsoever that these advantages reduce to the extent that it would match a female-bodied person. And the reason is that trans women who block testosterone do not remove initial male advantages. It doesn't change wingspan. It doesn't change post-pubescent male's anatomy. So even with hormone therapy and testosterone blockers, particularly post-pubescent, it doesn't level the playing field at all. So what you're saying is not supported by the science. The advantages of height, wingspan, bone strength, larger heart, and greater lung volume, the only thing that seems to equate is hemoglobin.
Now, I want to lay this out pretty succinctly for you. Every piece of evidence we have shows that in athletic competitions, men are better than women. Now, does that mean every single man is better than every single woman? Absolutely not. But what that does mean is that if you're competing in some type of sporting event for some type of prize, generally you segregate the sexes so that women can have an equal opportunity to be successful like men. And if you combine both women and men and have them compete against each other, the women will generally not be able to compete with the men. And as you saw before, the fastest woman ever to run the 100 meters would not even get on the podium at a high school track meet. So now legally, we have Title IX here in the United States, which not only recognizes the reality of the biological differences between men and women, it also establishes that we can't just have male-dominated sports. We have to have sports that essentially segregate men out, because if we didn't, then women wouldn't win anything. So now the Trump administration comes in and decides to enforce the spirit of Title IX, meaning there will be segregation based on sex when it comes to men and women's sports. And if a school chooses to allow men, biological men, to compete with women, they'll lose their federal funding. That takes us to the University of Pennsylvania, where Lia Thomas first played on the men's team. She was a male swimmer and wasn't that great of a male swimmer. Then decided one day, hey, I'm going to identify as a woman, took some hormone therapy, and then started competing as a woman, winning championships.
It took 4 minutes and 33 seconds for Lia Thomas to swim her way into NCAA history. With her victory in the women's 500-yard freestyle, Lia Thomas is now the first openly transgender D1 athlete to become an NCAA national champion. After spending 3 years on the men's team, the University of Pennsylvania swimmer surpassed the NCAA requirement to compete on the women's team, 12 months of hormone replacement therapy. Still, her standout season has ushered in a wave of scrutiny, splitting her teammates, some writing public letters of support and others anonymously speaking out against Thomas, with at least one complaining she has an unfair physical advantage.
Now, the Trump administration made it very, very clear that this was unacceptable. This is a male swimmer winning a women's championship. This violates Title IX. Clearly, it just on its face violates Title IX. And the university has to fix that or they are going to lose their funding. So the university decided to strip Lia Thomas of all of her championships because Title IX essentially demands that.
But to further your point, let me read this to you from the New York Times, and this one's definitely personal to you. This is from a few days ago. Transgender athletes at the University of Pennsylvania will no longer be able to compete for the school's women's teams following a new agreement between the university and the U.S. Department of Education. The university will also strip transgender competitors of historical credit for past accomplishments in the form of program awards or records. Under the agreement, Penn agreed to restore to female athletes all individual Penn Division I swimming records, titles, or similar recognitions, which were misappropriated by male athletes allowed to compete in female categories. Today's resolution agreement with UPenn is yet another example of Trump's effect in action. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump, Penn has agreed to both apologize for its past Title IX violations and to ensure that women's sports are protected at the university for future generations of female athletes, said U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon in a statement. Today is a great victory for women and girls, not only at the University of Pennsylvania, but all across the nation. Penn has been one of the epicenters of the debate over transgender athletes due to its handling of transgender swimmer Lia Thomas, who swam for the Quakers from 2017 to 2022.
You know, every time I do this story, I always feel like I'm missing something. It's like I feel like I'm talking to the void because it just seems so obvious to me. Like, how can we even debate the fact that there's a difference between men and women, especially in athletic competitions? It's not like we don't know this. And since when is it okay for, like in the Lia Thomas situation, she or he was a swimmer for the Penn's men team and then decided to say, I'm going to switch and start swimming for the women. And then lo and behold, setting NCAA records. It's like, are we really at the point where we're going to be that dumb to the facts? We know, right? We know because these are timed events. We absolutely know if women compete at the highest level against men, it won't even be close. Jackie Jordan-Kersee was 8,000th when we looked at it. She came up to 8,000th place, and that was the fastest woman to ever do it. And no one has come close in 30 years to even beating her record. It seems like it's just so delusional to me. And I try to listen to the other side. As you see, I've Googled it. I've listened to all of the retorts to all these arguments, and it all comes down to the same thing. We should just let them do it because they feel like it. I'm sorry, that's just not enough. That's not enough. It's not fair. And it's not reality. Tell me where we're on the comment section. Tell me, hey, Nate, you are a transphobe because you believe the women's competition should be segregated and that women should compete with biological women. If that makes me transphobic, then it seems like 70 to 80% of the American population is also transphobic because most of the Democrats and Republicans believe the same thing too. This surpasses party lines. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. And please tell me if I am honestly being transphobic in this video, tell me. Because I tried to lay out the facts and the arguments and let you sort it out. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out. Peace.